What's up guys, it's Avery here. Today marks the 2-year anniversary of me buying my first rental property, so I wanted to give a net worth update as well as give you guys an inside look into my world of real estate investing. This is just an average story. I didn't go from 0 to 1 million in a month. This is something that the average person can do while working a full-time job, so hopefully this video gives you a little bit of motivation to get started. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time here and you're interested in hearing more about real estate investing, personal finance, some renovation videos, or things that you can do with your money, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, comment on the video, and like just to help me out for that YouTube algorithm and keep me motivated for these videos so I can keep you guys motivated too. When I first got introduced to the idea of real estate investing, I figured that I would start off by buying a house hack every single year until I was financially free. And if you're not familiar with house hacking, check it out up here or in the description below. But it is a pretty simple way to get started in real estate investing, where you go and buy a 2 to 4 unit building, live in one unit, and rent out the excess units and bedrooms in order to cover your mortgage. And then after a year, you can move out and then have that property be a full-on investment property. And the value of doing this versus buying a traditional investment property is because you can use a low down payment of 3.5% so that it's much easier to get started rather than putting 25% down. When I first started, I wanted to execute the strategy of house hacking every single year until I hit financial freedom. I've learned a ton of things along the way, and I'm currently in year 2 as well as on property 2. So let's take a look at how I got started and my story so far. So 2.5 years ago in August of 2018, I picked up a random book about real estate investing. This led me on to the idea of house hacking, where I then eventually bought my first property in March of 2019. I was able to buy that first property using an FHA loan and using the house hacking strategy, which I was super excited about. When I first looked at this property in December of 2019, a few months after I picked up that first book, it was listed for $550,000 on market. It was a 4-bedroom upstairs and a 2-bedroom downstairs. It was the lowest price multifamily in the town that I was looking in. It was absolutely disgusting, full of checkered floors, mouse poop, yellow countertops. There were bras hanging everywhere. But structurally, it was a pretty nice home. I don't think anyone had done any sort of cosmetic updates since the 70s or 80s, and there were a lot of funny little fixes, like there were hangers holding up water lines and gas lines. But other than that, it actually seemed like a pretty solid home. And the reason it was going for so low is because it was just extremely disgusting. You can see in the backyard here that there was stuff everywhere, and the tenants were just not the cleanest people, which is why there was so much mouse poop everywhere. Now, this would scare so many people off because it is so disgusting and something that they didn't want to take on, but I saw it as a great opportunity. Now, when I first went and saw the property, it was fully tenanted. There was a tenant upstairs in the 4-bedroom as well as in the 2-bedroom. And in order to execute the house hacking strategy, you have to have one of the units be delivered vacant because you have to live in the property for 1 year. And I actually didn't find this to be such an enticing deal right away because the upstairs tenant was only paying $1,100 a month in rent. $1,100 was about $1,300 to $1,400 under market rent. Now, to some people, that might sound like a great opportunity. But in reality, it's very difficult to increase your tenant's rent all the way from $1,100 to $2,400 or $2,500 within a small period of time. Most likely, if that's the case and you want to increase the rent that much, you're going to be facing an eviction. Or you're going to be facing extremely small rental increases for a long period of time until you finally reach the market rent. Because of this, it was actually a property that I was not totally interested in. And as time passed, about a month later, it got swooped up by a full cash offer who offered $535,000. So it was totally out of the game. Now, the cash offer ended up falling through. They couldn't get their funds in order, and because of networking, I knew the listing agent. He called me and said, "Hey, if you want the property, it's yours." And at the time, my pre-approval was only $525. So because my pre-approval was $525, that was all I could offer the seller. And he accepted because later on I learned out he was doing a 1031 exchange, where there's a time constraint associated with you selling your property and putting the profits into another property without having to pay capital gains tax. Now, because the cash offer came in and that buyer wanted the whole place to be delivered vacant, the whole place was going to be delivered vacant by the time that I got there. So now there was a lot of room for improvement, and I could put my own tenant in rather than having a tenant paying $1,300 to $1,400 less than the market rent would allow. The day I bought that property, I totally got after it. I started ripping out the floors, prepping for painting, and putting in new countertops, and eventually did the bathroom later, and some great renovations. Here are some photos. You can see that the floors look a whole lot better. The bathroom looks super nice. The paint color is awesome. I absolutely love being in that kitchen. And there were some really great projects that we did with this property to make it a much more habitable unit. Simultaneously, while I was renovating my unit downstairs, I had a contractor renovate the unit upstairs. Now, there are a lot of good stories from that contractor, not everything that I'll get into, but one thing I'll say is when you're working with contractors, make sure you don't pick the cheapest one. Weigh your options and get a few quotes, and make sure you go with the one that seems like they're the most professional, not just the one who comes in with the lowest budget. After all was said and done, I was able to get a tenant in, and they were paying $2,400 for the upstairs bedroom. Also, in my unit, I was able to get a roommate, and then my girlfriend was living with me. So the tenant was paying $2,400, the roommate was paying $800, and my girlfriend was paying $400 a month. And in total, my mortgage was $3,307, and I was getting $3,600 a month in rental income while living in the property. After I had all of the tenants and my roommate and my girlfriend in, I was living for free. So I was super excited about that. I executed the strategy exactly how I wanted to. Fast forward 10 months later, and then I refinanced out of my FHA loan. You can only have one FHA loan at a time, so I refinanced from the FHA loan into a conventional loan. Because of the refinance, I was able to go from a $3,307 a month mortgage payment down to a $2,850 mortgage payment, which really increased the cash flow potential for the building. After that was all said and done, I found myself looking for another house. And I actually am currently sitting in that other house right now. It's a 3-family that I purchased for $678,000 with an $8,000 closing credit. That one's actually a really cool story because it was originally listed for $800,000, and because of the COVID pandemic and a lot less demand from buyers because it was right at the height of it, right at the beginning, the price kept coming down and down, and I offered a lot less than what it was listed for. Once I bought that property, I did a pretty similar thing. I renovated the place, and if you're interested in hearing about that renovation, me and I talk about it. Check it out up here or in the description below. We go over how we took the place from a pretty decent unit to an unbelievably nice unit that we love living in. Once all of the renovations were finished and we fast forward to today, and I'm still living for free in this building and absolutely love it, I looked at the valuation of each property. So a couple weeks ago, I asked my real estate agent what the price of this building would be, as well as the first property that I purchased. So let's take a look at the first property. So my real estate agent said that it's probably worth somewhere between $675 and $699, which is absolutely awesome when you think that I bought it for $525 with a $7,000 closing credit. And right now on that loan, I owe $498,000. So if you look at that spread, it's somewhere between $175,000 and $200,000 spread on how much that I own of that property, which is absolutely insane after 2 years and not what I thought was gonna happen, so I'm super pumped with that purchase. Now if we go ahead and look at the 3-family I purchased for $678 with the $8,000 closing credit, my agent said that it was worth somewhere between $775,000 and $800,000. So that puts me at about $115,000 to $140,000 of equity in the property in under a year, which is absolutely awesome when you think about the fact that I only put 3.5% down. So if you add those two numbers up, the amount of equity I have in my first property and the amount of equity I have in this property, it totals around a $300,000 net worth. And I was doing all of this while continuing to work my full-time job. I work throughout the day and I really don't do too much work at night. Throughout the beginning of each property, there is some upfront understanding of how the building is working and some stuff that you have to fix right away. But once all is said and done, you pretty much are just collecting rent and living for free and just living where you're living. There isn't really much more to it, and it's an extremely easy process that anybody can do. Now, a 3-family works a little bit different with being able to refinance out of the FHA loan. Because it's more units and the lenders treat it a little differently, you need at least 20% equity in the building. And I'm not totally at that part yet, so I can't refinance right away. And I'm still waiting out my year period of having to live in the building for 1 year so you can qualify for these low down payments. And while I'm kind of in this limbo, I've been trying to figure out a lot of other ways and a lot of other things that I can do with my money. Now, I save my money really well, which you can check out the video up here or in the description below, but I want to learn how to increase my income in other ways. So I've been doing things like personal finance coaching, and if that's something you want to do, check it out in the description below. Hit me up with a message. I've been doing some referrals for various businesses, And here I am right here on YouTube. And if you guys want to keep me motivated with YouTube, please comment on the video, like it, subscribe so that I can make more videos and help motivate you too. And while I'm waiting out the year and figuring out what my next move is with real estate, I've been trying to network as much as possible. As I mentioned, networking is an extremely important part of this business. It's something that you should be trying to do as often as possible. And with that networking, I want to be able to develop partnerships and potentially find private money. Because at this point, I feel like I have a pretty good understanding and a pretty good knowledge of how real estate investing works, but the limiting factor can be utilizing your own money and getting your own loans. And people get around that by having partnerships, using private money and other various sources to get them into more deals. Now you won't have 100% of the deal, but you'll be doing more of the real estate, and 50% of one deal is better than 100% of no deal. So while I'm looking for partnerships and private money, I'd also like to continue doing some of these owner-occupied investments. I'd like to do another house hack potentially, or buy a single family that I can live and flip, where you can live in the property for the last 2 or 5 years so that you can sell for $250,000 of tax-free capital gains, up to $500,000 if you're in a married couple. So that would be something that would be really exciting to me because I absolutely love renovating and Mia loves it too, so it's something fun that we can do together. My strategy going forward is to continue with those owner-occupied investments and find myself with some partners or private money, as well as continuing to do buy and hold. I'm not focused on flipping because there are far less tax advantages and less wealth building than with flips, because when you sell the property, yes, you can get a big profit and fairly quickly, but you have to pay a lot of that in tax and you no longer have the building as a wealth generator for you. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that net worth update, and hopefully the next time the net worth is a lot higher and a much more eye-catching number. And hopefully you guys took some value from this video so that you can go ahead and repeat and do this process just for yourself so you can find yourself in my position. Thanks again for watching and hope to see you guys next time.